You're locked in to Kool with a K.
Welcome back. It's another week of the Intabeats Drum and Bass show on Kool FM with me, Bailey. As always, taking you through some of my favourite tracks at the moment. Old, new, whatever I'm feeling at the time. Expect the usual kind of mixture of, I don't know, jungle, old school, new school, liquid, sometimes even a bit of neuro as well. Let you know what's coming up in the future as well in terms of me and what I'm doing out there in the world of DJing. And let's not forget our now ongoing feature called Generation Next, where I give names you may not know that much about a platform on this show to show them your, or for them to show you their skills, their flavors. And we've had some real good ones so far. That's going to be coming up at about 8 o'clock. So look out for that. Wicked mix this week, you know, big and serious. And a proper dark mix as well. That's why I'm getting my dark stuff out of the way early to make room for this mix, because boy, it goes in. So lots to look forward to. It's Bailey, Kool FM, so many flavors.
You're locked in to Kool with a K. Kool with a K. Your mind and run the race. The soldiers dancing, we rock the case.
Yeah, I'm going to send that one out to everyone who went to the Ramona Radio Rave at Ramona, which is actually a pizza place in Manchester. I did that like on Wednesday, actually. And yeah, what a just an interesting and unique setup they have there. Because basically you've got a restaurant that is split into sort of like the main restaurant area. You've got an area where you can go and smoke. Then there's another outside area. And then like sort of the turntables faced into the restaurant. And then behind me was a bar. So, I mean, they asked me to play for 3 hours. I'm like, what, 3 hours? You know, you can play whatever you want. So I started playing some garage. I played some niche. Even played some reggae. But then I noticed that it was filling up behind me, and the next thing you know, it's a full-on party unbeknownst to me, that they were filming this thing boiler room style from 3 angles. So the footage of that is going to be coming out sooner or later. Big shout out to Rich Reason. Wicked party, mate. I've got to big you up for that, mate. And I don't usually say this, but I'd like to do that again. That was a really great experience. We are under 20 minutes away from our feature, special guest mix called Generation Next. I'll give you more details in that in a bit. Let's change up the flavour for now, yeah?
Run rhythm selector. Run rhythm man. That's what I say, see? Run rhythm man. Rhythm selector. Run rhythm man, rhythm for run.
You're locked in to Kool with a K.
Run rhythm selector. Run rhythm man. See. Run rhythm man. Run rhythm selector. Show me I say, see.
Vibes is coming. Oh, Lord. Yeah, we traveling. Hear my rhythm and I hear that sound. Play this rhythm and I play that sound. Them kind of you, them are the talk of the town. It's a natural way the crowd moving down. I hear that, hear my rhythm and I hear that sound. This rhythm and I feel that sound. It's a natural way, the 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 natural way, down. I hear that.
Yeah, if you just locked in, it's Bailey with Intabeats on Kool FM. We do this fortnightly on Tuesdays, second and fourth Tuesdays of the month from 7 until 9. Gotta send love out to all my Birmingham family. I'm gonna be up there, or down there, where Saturday the 26th of July at the Hare and Hounds for Broken Minds, which I've just realised it's about drum and bass classics. So I'm going to be doing a classic, or a set of classic drum and bass from that era, all those years. On the lineups myself, Escape, Phase 2, Vital, Samas, and my boy Five Alive. Looking forward to seeing him, man. I ain't seen him for a little minute. I haven't worked with him for a little minute as well, so it'd be good to see my man down there as well. That's looking like a good party. 95 to 2006. Yeah, boy, don't get me digging out the dubs. Broken Minds, Saturday 26th of July at the Hare and Hounds, Kings Heath, Birmingham. I'm looking forward to that. Right, going to squeeze in a few more, then we're going to get into our guest mix for this week for the Generation Next feature that we now have on this show. And then after the mix, I'll give you details, of course, on how you can send your mixes in to me or us. So you could probably get your half an hour mix on this very, very show like many others have. In the meantime, a little bit of this.
River City now.
I told you it's going to be a mixture of flavors. You know, I like all kinds of stuff. So that's what I'm going to play on this show. It's about time we play our special guest mix for our feature that is known as Generation X, where we give DJs you may not have heard of before a platform to showcase their skills on this very show, the Intabeats Drum and Bass Show with Bailey. And this week we have a mix from a DJ called Magic. Now, a little bit of info about Magic. His journey in his music started in 1990. He was immersing himself in drum and bass up until about 1998. And then he transitioned into making broken beats throughout the 2000s. He was known for playing on several pirate radio stations. And then later on, I actually did a guest mix for BBC One Extra that showcased his actual broken beat style. But he stepped back from DJing in 2010. And then his passion was reignited in 2018 when he bought some turntables and rediscovered his love and his passion for drum and bass. Now, Magic's signature style is described as deep rolling beats, rich bass lines, and technically precise mixes that reflect decades of craft and evolution. I've listened to the mix and I can say that description is accurate. So without further ado, let's get into this week's very special mix coming from Magic for Generation Next.
Yo, right now you're in tune to the guest mix. Mix it up. Tune to the guest mix.
You're locked in to Kool with a K.
right now you're in tune to the guest mix. Mix it up.
There it is, our special guest mix for the Generation Next series of mixes that we are doing on this show, the Intabeats show with Bailey on Kool FM. That one there by the one and only Magic. If you want to find out more about Magic and hear some of his mixes, he is on Mixcloud. You've got to look for One Bad Mix, and it's one ONEBAAD mix, or just do search for Magic, and it's spelled MAGIQ. So MAGIQ, search for Magic on Mixcloud. Likewise, same thing for Instagram. Pick up the Magic, deep and serious. Definitely feeling that. And if you feel like you've got what it takes to have your mix featured on this show, make sure you send us a mix. It needs to be 30 minutes long. Send it to intabeatsmusic@gmail.com. My team will have a listen for some of the hottest mixes out there. It's all about giving the people who are kind of not as well known platforms to show what they do. Yeah, Generation Next. Got about 20 minutes or so to the left of what's rested. Why can't I talk? You know, this happens when I've been on this too long, man.
The mothership.
Just over 20 minutes or so left to the end of the show. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. So I'm going to just play some smoother flavors. Seems that's been mostly on the dark side today. Yeah? For those that love it, deep and soulful.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Afros, pinks.
Don't forget, if you want to know more about me, I'm on Bailey Intabeats across all social media platforms, everywhere. There's a lot going on right now.
Straight to the bone. Oh yeah, you know, swinging a beat like this makes me wanna go back, you know, back in the 70s, you know. Something like my man James Brown would say, hey, 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 yeah, you know, God made me funky, and I'm just glad He made me that way. Cause you gotta get ready. Don't let that bus flash you by. You know what I'm saying? Soul brothers, soul sisters, put your fists in the air, say it, yeah. Something on a real old school tip. Oh yeah. You know, all I can say is that God made me funky, and I'm glad He blessed me that way. Yeah. Now that's what I'm screaming. You know, we gotta get together, clean up them neighborhoods, make it better, make it all good, and it starts within. You know, it's time to put up or shut up. You know, gotta make a change
Kool
somehow, some way. As my man Visual would say. Oh yeah, you know that God made me funky.
Kool with a K.
Let's go that way. Yeah, get up for the downstroke. And once again, alright, 2 squares. Yeah. There's something you found too. I wanted to tell you, but I don't know how to. You cause me to react, and how am I supposed to? Act when you're around, girl, if you want to.
free. Slender silhouettes, moves all eyes fixed on the screen. Every girl wants to do what she was born to be. Got them riches from runways, star of the silver screen. Go get a trendsetter, never been a has-been. Gallerani, paparazzi, panic on a day off. Smile for the camera girl, worldwide chaos. Meet her, read it, busted from this cover girl body. Center spreaded, lusted from that smooth, cool body. For the life for the party. My kind of naughty, in the language of lust, an expensive hobby. Games you play, high heels, leotarded. Influential sway, not for the faint-hearted. Mistress of leisure, be the one lead lady. Drive a boy wild, with a buckle up for safety.
Jump up and down like this and run. Red dog, no, never do no wrong. I got the phone that up and down. I got the weak, I got the strong. Jump up and down like this and run. You said you wait. Jump it down.
You know what? I almost forgot to say thank you to everybody who went to the Worried About Henry after party a couple of weeks ago. I actually, believe it or not, I wasn't allowed to say that I was on the lineup. I wasn't allowed to say it. But that was at the Cause, and it was what a great gathering. As always, Worried About Henry, always doing big things. And man, I didn't even know what time zone I was on, because like I'd literally got off of the plane from America that day, went home, chilled for a little bit, and then went out to play at that. It was a daytime event. But I played, oh no, it started at like 10 and I played at 3 in the morning. Wicked night though, really good night. Again, sending love out to all the Too Tough family. Threw a great memorial party for Andy from Too Tough, a member of their family, an original founder that passed away a while ago. There's been clips of that on the internet, and just what a great night. Absolutely full capacity in the club. That was at Flash in Washington, DC, and man, yeah, that one's gone down in the history books as far as I'm concerned. Not long left to the end of the show. About 10 minutes to get some more of them smooth flavors in. You know what I mean? It's Bailey, Intabeats, Kool FM.
things in my heart, it's all rearranged. I can feel you again, and no, not the same thing. Everything's in my heart, but there's no more debating that I can feel you again. I can feel you again.
Once again, as always, it's been a pleasure playing some beats for you. And of course, I need to say to you that this show can be rerun on the Kool FM/Rinse FM website for all, well, until I don't know, it's kind of forever. All the shows are up there. Just search for Bailey when you hit the Kool FM site, and all my archive shows will come up, and I'll be spreading it across my social media as well. Got to send massive respects to Magic for a great mix tonight, our Generation Next mix. And don't forget, if you want to have your moment to have your 30-minute mix showcased on this show, then you send your mixes to intabeatsmusic@gmail.com. That's INTA beatsmusic@gmail.com. I think I'm going to end on this one. Yeah, thank you for locking in, all the regulars that check out the show. Always appreciate, you know. There's a lot of people don't, you know, even let me know they're listening, but I know you're out there. Big respect. Going out from this one. This one is going to be from Fats. This one hasn't even come out yet, man. For me, a little Sun and Bass anthem. You know what I mean? Until next time, everybody, enjoy the weather. Hope it stops raining. And I'll see you next time. Peace.
Ocean breeze kicks in with a drink in your hand. Beach wear fresh, got the feet in the sand. The windows looking sweet while everyone's getting tan. The blacked out shades for the buzzing night gang. Everybody came to dance and this dance is on fire, fam. Yeah, only requirements, take it easy, my man. Take it easy. Come on, yeah.
Love that vibe, it's all amazing. Music got me
swipes and rush with the foot. When there's beelines and sun, everything is all good. Musical pleasures and the weather understood. We came for the good vibes, only if you would. Don't matter where you are, if you're ready, let's push for the remedy to life. Please never stay put. Let the sun rays blaze and then beelines whoosh. The best is combination. If you're ready, then good. Cause frequencies are healing, the mother nature's meaning. Something we all need in that vitamin D and no clouds for a ceiling. It's always something special that could catch you in the feelings. You might start praying and kneeling, worshipping the musical gods and heaven's teachings. Enlightenments to believe in. Just give me sun and bass and let the world start feeling.
Kool with a K.